Okay, we're gonna get started. Okay, we are on 43A1. Um, we're continuing in the Gemara. The Gemara had stated, Rav Chizda said that you cannot put a utensil under a hen, under a chicken, to catch the egg on the Shabbat because the egg is mukser and you can't catch the egg. However, he says you could cover the egg. If you want to cover the egg that the egg shouldn't break, because let's say if the egg would be in an area where people walk and they would step on the egg, so you could take a non-muksa item to cover the egg. And that's what the Gemara said yesterday. Now, the question is, what is the reason why you can't put a utensil to catch the egg? What's the problem? I'm taking a non-muksa item. I just want to catch the egg. What am I doing? I'm not handling muksa. I'm not touching muksa. I move the plate underneath. So what's the issue? So now we're focusing on Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef said the issue is because you are nullifying a utensil. Because if you take a plate, David, and you place it under the egg, and it catches the egg, that plate now cannot be used anymore on Shabbat because it contains the egg. The egg is mukseh, and you now have taken a right. So if you catch the egg, once the egg is inside the utensil, it's holding mukseh. So now you can't move the utensil. So the utensil now you had a moment beforehand, you had a utensil that was movable, usable for many things. You're able to move it. Now you can't move it anymore. Why can't you move it? Because it contains a mukseh item in it. Since it contains a mukseh item, so you have taken a utensil that was movable and now you made it immovable. Why is it mukseh? Because the egg wasn't prepared before the Shabbat. It was laid on Shabbat. So things mukseh means something that was separated from you. It wasn't. It was before Shabbat. It was separated from use. It wasn't here in the world. Now it came into the world. So it's that the egg is mukseh on the Shabbat. I can't move the egg, and now I took a utensil that was movable and I made it immovable. So it is like, in a certain sense, it is like destroying. It is like soter on Shabbat. Good morning, Jaime.
Good morning. Good
Welcome
morning.
back. Welcome
Thank
back.
you.
We missed you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are learning. The Gemara is discussing the issue of mukseh on Shabbat. As we know, there are certain things that we can't mukseh. You can't move certain things on Shabbat. I can't move money on Shabbat. And the Gemara says that an egg that was laid on Shabbat, an egg is mukseh. If it was laid on Shabbat, it wasn't prepared before Shabbat. It wasn't in this world. So the Gemara says not only is the egg mukseh that's laid on Shabbat, I can't go ahead and place a plate underneath the hen, the chicken, to catch the egg on the Shabbat, even though I'm not handling the mukseh, but I can't put the plate underneath to catch the mukseh. And we're gonna explain in a minute, Jaime, what's the issue. But the rabbi said I could go ahead and cover the egg. I don't put the plate under. Good morning, Adam. Welcome back. I don't put the plate under the egg on Shabbat. I put the plate on top of the egg on Shabbat to protect the egg. No one should step on the egg. That I'm allowed to do. Now, what's the difference between putting the plate under the egg or putting the plate on top of the egg? So Rabbi Yosef says in his explanation of Rav Chizda is that under the egg you are now making a plate that was movable immovable. Because when you catch the mukseh, Now the mukseh is in the plate. That plate can't be moved. It's housing mukseh, and you are so to speak, like Pesach is coming, right? Pesach is around the corner. We have something called nullification. There's something called bitul chametz. You mavatel the chametz. That means not only do you make a search to remove all the chametz from your properties, right? If someone has an apartment in Florida, right, they have to make sure that they can't leave chametz in the freezer. They can't leave chametz in the refrigerator, right? Even though I'm not in Florida, Rabbi. What's the problem? I'm here in New York. I'm not in that place of I'm in Orlando. I'm not in Miami. My apartment's in Miami. You can't own chametz on Pesach. If you own chametz any place in the world that you own chametz, you have to either sell the chametz, right? If they sell the chametz or get rid of the chametz. But not only do we go ahead and sell chametz and search out the chametz, we have to go. We also mevatel. We do bitul. You make a declaration. It's not a prayer, as the Chai Adam says. It's not a prayer. The night of the search, after we conclude the search, right, David? We go ahead and we make a nullification of the chametz. What are we saying? We're saying that any chametz that the night of the search we say that I do not know about, I want to nullify. I want to make it ownerless. And then after you do the burning of the chametz in the morning, then you say another declaration, chametz that I know about, or even chametz that I know about or don't know about, I'm nullifying. That's called bitul, a nullification. Good morning, Simon. That's called bitul. That's called nullification. I nullified. So here the Gemara uses the same word. Rabbi Yosef used to say mevatel. It's the same word of nullification. Here we're not talking about nullifying chametz. We're talking about nullifying, so to speak, a utensil, making a utensil no longer movable. That's what the Gemara is explaining. Is Rabbi Yosef is saying that if you take a non-muksa item and you place it under a chicken, a hen, to catch the muksa, now what you have done in essence is you made a utensil that was movable, not movable anymore. Because now that it caught the egg, David, I can't move that utensil. I put that plate. Is that clear, David, or not? And what's the problem? What's the problem by what? Good. Yes. Rabbi, you're correct. You have nullified, you have made a utensil that was usable, movable, not movable anymore. So what is that issue? Good morning, Asaf. So Rashi says in one place, it's soter. It's like demolishing. You demolish something. It has a resemblance of breaking something, making something immovable. And therefore, on Shabbat, you can't do demolition on Shabbat. Demolition is forbidden on Shabbat. It's one of 39 malachot, breaking something down with the intention of rebuilding. So therefore, the rabbis, he understands that the rabbis will forbade this act of making a beautiful, nice utensil movable. Immovable is some sort of resemblance of demolition. And therefore, the rabbis want to protect us that we should never go do a demolition on Shabbat. So therefore, they said you can't go ahead and place the plate under the egg to catch the egg. However, to cover the egg, when you place the plate on top of the egg, the plate is movable, right? It's on top. It's not underneath. When you have muksa contained within a utensil, then that utensil becomes mukseh. But if you go ahead and you place the utensil on top of the item, right, then the item will not be, then the item, you place the utensil on top of the mukseh, then that item that you place on top of the mukseh will not be mukseh.
So the rabbis are saying, once the non-mukseh item gets caught up with the mukseh item and it can't be moved.
Right, that's the problem. You can't do that on Shabbat.
But because it's a demolition, not even
Right,
because
right. The issue is, what's the issue? What am I doing? What am I doing wrong? I'm just putting a non-muksa item underneath, and it catches it. What did I do? I didn't handle any muksa on Shabbat, right? I didn't handle it. I didn't handle muksa. I took a nice plate and I put a plate underneath the hen, and I caught the egg. What did I do? I didn't move. I didn't actually move muksa. I didn't take the egg and move it. Yet it's a problem, and that's the issue according to that opinion. Right? We had a different opinion that says you can't move a movable item for the purpose of a non-movable item unless it's a common safe. Right? That was a different understanding. Not because you're making something immovable. It's just that on Shabbat, the abilities of moving things on Shabbat, there's certain things the rabbi said don't move. The same way you don't move money on Shabbat, don't move something for the purpose of money unless it was a common situation that was needed to be saved. Then you can move that non-muksa item for the purpose of the muksa. That is one opinion of the Gemara. Now the Gemara is moving away from that. It's not because I can't move a movable item for the purpose of a non-movable item. Rather, I am actually nullifying. I am making something that was movable immovable. That is the concern, and that is the issue, and that seems to be the halakha. The second issue, you're making something that was movable, not movable. And that is a problem on Shabbat. Now, by the way, you should know that when you have a drawer, right? You have a drawer in your bedroom, and you keep money in that drawer. You have your credit cards in that drawer. So now that drawer is, by the way, holding mukseh. Can I open that drawer on Shabbat? Now I have in that drawer, you know what? I know I have a tissue in that drawer. So I keep my little pack of tissues, my traveling pack of tissues in that drawer. I have a pack of tissues, and I have $50 in that drawer. I keep singles in that drawer. Not that I do it, but now can I open that drawer on Shabbat to get the tissue? So we have something, but we're going to learn about a thing. We're going to learn about a rule called when something holds a mukseh, it has a status of the mukseh. You're supporting the mukseh. That's called a basis. You're supporting mukseh. So then you get the status of the mukseh. But what about, Simon, if you have you're holding multiple items, the drawer has the money. Let's say it has, and you have your siddur, right? So then, right. So then you're getting into the question of, it's now you have something which is holding both mukseh and not mukseh. So what status does the drawer have? If the drawer has mukseh and not mukseh, so there we say we have to look into the halacha again. What's the more important thing that it's holding? If you have a few coins in the drawer, you have a few coins in the drawer, and you have a sitter in the drawer, there's no question the sitter is much more important than the few coins. But if a person has a large amount of money in the drawer and he has a sitter in the drawer, so now it would seem that the
If you have your wallet and there's no cash in it, and only your credit card.
you have your right. You have your wallet, you have a credit card, and you have a sitter in the drawer. So what's more important? What's more valuable? What's more important? So we have to see more into halachot. The fact that the sitter is so much needed for the Shabbat. Let's say it's a weekday sitter that you don't need it for Shabbat. Then I would definitely think that maybe the credit card might have more value than the weekday sitter.
If you do it over there permanently or smart time.
Right. But it's true. The sitter is there permanently for Shema. Right. But I'm saying we have to go and look at those halachot, Simon, because if you have something that's holding muksa and non-muksa item, if the non-muksa item is more important than the non-muksa item, it would get the status of the muksa. right? So I gave you a case. Let's say you have $1,000 in the drawer, and you have your, sitter in the drawer. Would we say that the $1,000 is the sitter is more valuable than the? No, the only question is, like I said, if something that's so much needed for Shabbat, then we have to see how that is viewed. Because I'm going to give you an example. On Shabbat, we say you light the candles on Shabbat. Friday night before Shabbat, before sunset, right? People try to light 18 minutes before you light the candles. And you have your table. Your table is holding candles, is holding the candles. Now the candles, once the candles go out, can I move the table? So if the table has on it, so now if you put on the table chalot before Shabbat, so now the table was holding both muksa and non-muksa items, the chalot and the candles. So even though maybe the candlesticks and the candlesticks are mukseh, right? They're used for burning on Shabbat, but the fact that it had the chalot and the chalot are so vital also for Shabbat, so we are lenient. And we say that you could, after the lights go, the candles go out, you want to move the table. As long as you needed to have the chalot there before Shabbat. So we have to see more exactly when something is holding both muksa and non-muksa items, what status that item has that contains it. What we're learning out, what I think practically you're going to see from this, if you have a drawer, David, right? You have a drawer on Shabbat that you like to go to that contains muksa and non-muksa items. Now you're getting into questions that you have to verify. Can I open that drawer on Shabbat? So therefore, what's the best thing to do, David? Right, Simon? Don't keep in a drawer that you plan. If drawer that you plan on using on Shabbat, and you know the drawer you keep muksa in that drawer. Try to create a muksa drawer. I don't go to that drawer on Shabbat. A drawer that has the money, those type of things, then I don't want to keep non-muksa items in that drawer when I know I'm going to need to use that drawer on the Shabbat. Adam, am I making sense? We're living in Manhattan. Manhattan is space is a commodity every inch. So, Rabbi, you're telling me to have it, not to keep the stuff in the same drawer. I don't have room, but you have to figure it out. That's what I would just say, to try to separate your mukseh and your non-mukseh. Don't keep in the same drawer, because you're getting into the questions about the drawer becoming a holder of the mukseh, and then it have the status of the mukseh itself. Interesting. David, I was saying something interesting that people might not think about too much, right, Simon? It's something to think about. The innocent drawer. Okay, so that's something to. I mean, when we so now that's what the Gemara. Now the Gemara continues. So we're on 43A1 on the right side. Notnin kli tachat haneh lekabel nitzotot. Nitzotot. We could place, the Gemara is now challenging this understanding, Rav Yosef's understanding of Chisda. Because it says you could place in a kli tachat haneh, you could place a utensil underneath a light, candelabra, a menorah, lekabel nitzotot, to catch the sparks. So how could you do that? If you're putting it underneath to catch the sparks are mukseh. And now if you catch the sparks, you're making the non-mukseh item that you're nullifying it. Because now it can't be used because it's catching the sparks. And when it catches the sparks, it's immovable. So you're making something movable, not movable. So the Gemara says, Amar Avuna Breda Yeshua needs so ain't ben mamash. A spark has no real anything to it. And therefore, even when you catch it, you let him move the utensil. It's not like catching an egg that you caught mukse, and that mukse has some body to it. There's no body to a spark, and therefore does not make the utensil forbidden to be moved. Therefore, there's no problem of putting a utensil underneath the menorah to catch the spark. V'chein korish nishbra. The Gemara, they have the beam that broke. Somchanota, you want to support the beam. B'safsal or baruchat amita. You go ahead and you support it with a bench. You put a bench against a couch against the beam, or you put the legs of the bed against the beam the beam shouldn't fall down. So the Gemara thought that you are placing the bed, the couch, under the beam very strong with strength. You're putting it a tight fit. And if it's a tight fit, you can't go ahead and remove it on Shabbat. Because if you remove it on Shabbat, it's like you're breaking something. You are demolishing on the Shabbat, right? So if you go ahead and you on Shabbat, if you put this couch and you put it tightly underneath the beam to hold the beam in place, you can't remove it on Shabbat, right? And therefore, if you can't remove it on Shabbat, see.
But isn't it sakana?
Good morning, Morris. We're talking about you don't have to stay in that area of if maybe the beam will fall down. It's not, we're not talking about sakana. You could go somewhere else. You go to another room. You go to another area. What's the issue over here? The Gemara is understanding that if I put the beam underneath, I put the couch to support the beam. If I would go ahead and remove the beam, the couch, that would be a tircha. That would be excessive effort on the Shabbat. And therefore, if I can't move it, I can't do certain heavy type of excessive work, burdensome stuff on Shabbat. And therefore, that would be a problem of I'm making a bed, a couch that was movable before, and now once I put it in a tight fit by the beam, now I can't move the couch anymore. So I am making a couch that was movable, immovable. So that's like taking a plate underneath it and catching an egg that was movable. Now that I can't move the plate. Oh, look who's here. Okay, Tov, good to see you. Of course, it's an honor. Just try to say, couch is movable. You're not moving it up you're not walking 5 flights of steps. You know what I'm saying? If you want to say the bracha of the Torah, so al divrei Torah barevna asher bacha banu for learning. That's just want to remind you. I want to say that. So good to see you. So that's the Gemara's question. The Gemara's question is: you're taking a couch that was movable. The Gemara is thinking you're making it immovable on Shabbat, and that the Gemara is thinking is you're not allowed to do that on Shabbat. Make something that was movable, non-movable. That's similar to demolition. So the Gemara says we're talking about that you didn't put it in so tightly that you can't remove it on the Shabbat. That's heavy duty, it's heavy burden. The Rafi that the couch was placed in to support the beam, not tight. The boy shokale, you could go ahead and take it. So if therefore it's not, you didn't make something immovable. Just to bring you up to date, we're talking about on Shabbat issues of mukset, certain things we can't handle on Shabbat. And now we're trying to explain that the Gemara says not only I can't handle, let's say, money on Shabbat, I can't make an item that was movable, immovable. That I can't take an item that was movable, let's say an egg that was not laid before Shabbat, the egg is mukseh. If I put a plate to catch the egg, now if the plate is caught the egg, I can't do that. I can't put the plate underneath the egg. Why? Because I'm making a plate that was movable. Now it's not. I can't move the plate because the plate is mukseh. That's the issue of the Gemara. That's the explanation of the Gemara. So the Gemara says, no snikli tachara del b'Shabbat. Let's say you have water coming down from the roof into the house. It says you could put a utensil, bucket, to catch water that's coming down into the house on Shabbat. But how can I do that? Because I don't want things to get morning. I don't want things to get dirty in the house. But why can I go? I don't want the carpeting to get dirty. But how can I do that? The water that's coming down is dirty water. It's disgusting water. I have no use for that water. If I have no use for that water, it's mukseh, that water that's dripping, that dirty water that's dripping from the roof, right? It's mixing with the roof materials, whatever on the roof, what I got on the roof. And now I put a bucket, when I put the bucket to catch the water on Shabbat, the bucket becomes mukseh. And it's containing mukseh. So now I made a bucket that was movable before, immovable. And yet it says we could do that. So the Gemara says, we're talking about water that has use for drinking. It's not talking about water that your roof is dirty and the water that's going to come down through that's dripping in is going to make it to be unusable. Talking about it still passes the test of sanitary use. That water that comes down, after a nice rain, the rainwater is Hashem sends nice clean rainwater, and your roof is very clean or whatever. We're talking about a situation where the water will still be usable. So the Gemara says, "Kofin es asal lifnei efruchim." Another question the Gemara says is you could turn over a basket. You have a basket and there's chicks. You have little chicks. Now chicks on Shabbat, I can't handle the chicks on Shabbat. Right? In general, animals on Shabbat, I can't pick up animals on Shabbat and move them. Now people who have dogs and all those things have to beware, look into the halachot of what am I allowed to do, what am I not allowed to do, because there's the issue of handling animals. So here the question. So this chick, the chicks, the little chickens are mukseh. So I could go ahead and put take a basket, turn it upside down to catch the chick, that the chick should go into the basket. The chick wants to go in the basket, goes in the basket, it goes off the basket. Well, let's say here we're talking about I want it to go into its nest. So I turn upside down a basket, and now the bottom of the basket becomes like a ladder, right? You have like the bottom of the basket, right? And the basket is hollow inside, right? I have a hollow basket, right? Like a cup. If you turn over that cup, now it could be used as a step stool for the chicken to go up to the nest, right? So now I could go ahead and I could turn over a basket before Shabbat, not on Shabbat itself for the chicken. But when I turn over the basket, the chicken goes in. I can't move the basket. It's immovable. I made that basket immovable because the chicken's inside and the chicken is mukseh. So if you told me I can't make something immovable on Shabbat, I can't make a movable item. A basket is something movable, not movable. I made a movable item, not movable. Is it clear, everybody? The Gemara answers, Ksava mutalatatalo. He holds that after the chicks leave the basket, you can move the basket. So I'm not really making something immovable. It's just while the chick is inside, I can't move it. But the chick goes out, I can move the basket. I didn't know. Demolition is you broke something. When you make something, when you demolish something, it's gone. It's finished. You destroy something. Here, the basket, it's not to look like demolition because the fact that I can't use it for this minute, but after the chick leaves the basket, I can use it. They didn't make something movable immovable because a few minutes later it becomes movable again. Adam, is that clear? That's what the Gemara is. I'm not nullifying it from use. Now, so the Gemara says, what do you mean? Vatanya have a brighter that says, "She'asula taltalo." You can't move the basket. You told me when the chicks leave, you can move the basket, but I have a brighter that says that once the chicks leave, the Gemara understood that you can't. It's talking about when the chicks, even when the chicks leave, you can't move the basket. The Gemara shoots back, no. But Odin only when the chick is inside the basket, right, David? If the chick is inside the basket, has the status of the what? Of the basket the basket's the status of the chick. You can't move the basket, it's holding the chick. But once the chick leaves, they can move the basket. Vatanya, the Gemara says, Vatanya Avapi ain't Odin alav. We have a brisa that says that even if the chick is not in the basket, I still can't move the basket. You told me that I didn't make it immovable because once the chick leaves the basket, if I put the basket to catch the chick, it's true temporarily it's immovable, but now once the chick leaves, it's movable. But the Gemara shoots back. I show you that even when the chick leaves, it's immovable. So it seems like you're making something immovable. So the Gemara shoots back. No, you know what the case is? If the chick was inside the basket during the twilight zone of Shabbat, right? When the sun goes down, right? We can't. When do we have to stop doing work on Shabbat? We have to make sure we don't do any work from the time the sun goes down. And really, you should even stop a couple of minutes before, 2 minutes before or so, because you want to add to Shabbat, right? So you go ahead and you should stop. You should refrain from doing work already 2 minutes before. You should try to add. You should try to add a couple of minutes if possible. Not 2 minutes, 1 minute, whatever. Add something to the Shabbat. Don't play it to the line, right, Morris? People shouldn't go, oh, what time is sunset? I'll go to the second sunset. It's supposed to end, right, David? You know, you get too close to the fire, people get burnt, right? Let's not play it so close. But if you have something, if a muksa item, if you have in the basket throughout the twilight time, from sunset until it got dark, we had muksa, this basket was mukseh throughout the twilight time. Why couldn't I couldn't move it when the sun went down? Because the chick was in the basket during that time period. So we have a law that something that was separated from youth during the twilight zone of Shabbat, when Shabbat entered, that you can't use it the whole Shabbat. You can't handle the chicks on Shabbat. Those chicks you can't handle on Shabbat. You want to play with your chickens. You can't handle your chickens on Shabbat. Don't handle them on Shabbat. But here the Gemara is saying, so why is it that you told what the Gemara is saying, but the basket, the Gemara says, if I put the basket on Shabbat, Friday night, 10 p.m., I put the basket, it's 10 p.m., right? I put the basket underneath the cat that the chicks should go into, to use it as a ladder. Chicks are going to sleep, and now I'm putting the basket underneath the cat. Chicks use it as a ladder. I could do that because it wasn't in the basket before Shabbat. It wasn't removed from me when Shabbat entered. See, when Shabbat enters, is removed from me, is separated from me. Let's say because the chicks are in the basket when Shabbat enters. So the rule is when it was separated from me when Shabbat enters, it's forbidden for me for the whole Shabbat. Even if the chicks left subsequently, it's forbidden for me because it was separated from me when the Shabbat entered. But when it wasn't separated from me when Shabbat entered, I had my basket. I was keeping my clothing in the basket. Now, 10 p.m., I decide to turn over the basket so the chicks can walk on top, use it as a ladder. So it's true when the chicks go in it, I can't move it. Once the chicks leave it, I could leave it. This is a very important point that we have to remember. That if something was separated from me, muksa, when the Shabbat enters, even it will remain muksa, it will remain forbidden throughout the Shabbat, even if the reason why it was muksa doesn't exist. Right? That's what the Gemara is saying over here. Let's explain this concept. It's an important concept. Let's say I gave the example of drawer. I had money in a drawer. And when Shabbat came, the money was in the drawer. So the drawer, which holds the money, is like the money itself. It has the status of the money. It's mukseh. Then a child came on Shabbat and took the money out of the drawer. Now the drawer does not no longer has the muksa item in it. Can I go ahead and now decide to put things? I want to put my tissues in the drawer and use the drawer, open and close the drawer on Shabbat. So based on this rule, when Shabbat entered, the drawer was mukseh. It was a muksa drawer because I had my money in that drawer. I didn't have other things in the drawer that were more valuable. I didn't have my gold. You didn't have your gold watch in the drawer. Because if you have your gold watch in the drawer and you have $100 in the drawer is holding a gold watch and $100. The gold watch is worth more than $100, especially with the price of gold today, right? And therefore you could open the drawer, just don't hand it. But if I only had money in the drawer, so when Shabbat came, this drawer is holding money. It's like the money itself. Now the money was removed on Shabbat. We say once it was separated from me, when Shabbat came, that I wasn't thinking I wasn't going to be using the drawer because the drawer was mukser when Shabbat came. Even though the reason for the mukser removed is no longer here because the money is not out of the drawer, it would still be what? Mukser. So that's what the Gemara is saying. The case of the basket that we say that it is mukseh. I can't move the basket, even though the chicks left the basket on the Shabbat, is when the chicks were in the basket throughout the beginning of the Shabbat. Therefore, I'm removed from it, and therefore remains mukseh throughout the Shabbat. Okay, beautiful Gemara we learned, and we have beautiful people that have joined us for today's class. It's great to see. We'd love to see more often. If you don't mind me giving my sales pitch. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I apologize that we haven't. Right, exactly.
Wait, Bunny lives close.
Bunny, you heard that? Have a great day, Asaf.
He lives across the hall from Aaron Bailey.
Thank you. Is Bunny in our Gemara chat? We have to get him in the Gemara because I feel bad, Bunny. Bunny, I have to apologize. Take care, Morris.